Hello everyone, my name is Hassan and you're welcome to Mo's Medical. Alright, so today I'm going to be the one doing the So You Want to Go series, and I'm going to be doing that for the Medical University of the Americas. So like some of you guys already know, I'm doing this series where I just talk to medical students and ask them about their school to tell us more about their school so that prospective medical students could get some insight into what going to these medical schools is like. So today, obviously I go to MUA, so who else to do it than myself? Maybe I might ask one of my colleagues to hop on and do another video, just have a different perspective from mine, but I'm here, so I might as well just get it done. All right, so today I'm going to be talking about going to Medical University of the Americas and how that's been for me so far. All right, so the first question is, tell me a little bit about your school and why you decided to go there. So like I already said, my school is the Medical University of the Americas and it's in Nevis on the island of St. Kitts and Nevis. So there are just two islands and Nevis is the smaller island of the two. Yeah, so I decided to come here because actually I did not want to come to MUA. My first choice was AUC actually, but unfortunately I do not have enough money to go there. So I'm Canadian, right? And unfortunately our Canadian government doesn't give us enough money to cover medical school if you are going international, right? Unlike US schools that they can have, their Title IV funding and all of that. So for Canadians, we have to get private funding, right? And obviously to get private funding to fund like medical schools like SGU, Ross and AUC could start getting a lot. So my situation, I was unable to afford AUC, and so that's why I find myself at MUA. But so far I like it though. I mean, it was not my first choice, but due to circumstances beyond my control, I'm here, and so far it's so good. So that's how I decided to come to MUA. Alright, so the next question is the entry requirements. So for MUA, the MCAT is required, first of all, and that's required for just the US medical students, right? But if you're Canadian, the MCAT is not required. So you can take the MCAT, but it's always advised just to take it, just in case. But for MUA specifically, I mean, at the time I applied, which was in 2019, the MCAT is required for US students, but not for Canadians. And also you have your regular requirements like your physics. So you need 1 year of physics, you need your biological sciences, chemistry, all that good stuff. And then I believe you need 1 year of English as well too. So make sure you can just go on the website, mua.edu, to verify those requirements. But yeah, that's pretty much it so far. And also, so you also need an undergraduate degree, right? Basically at least 3 years of undergrad studies. You don't have to complete your 4 years of undergrad if you do not want, but obviously it's always recommended. So, but at least 3 years of an undergraduate degree is sufficient, and if you get a bachelor's degree, obviously that's good as well too. So so that's also required for coming to MUA. So tuition fees, man. So one thing about MUA, they have increased their tuition fees right from the time I started. So I know when I started in Med 1, the tuition fee was I think around $15,000 US. But right now, the tuition fees for anyone getting into the school from after May 2021 is going to be about $21,000, US dollars. Alright, so the next question is, what's the curriculum like? Alright, so MUA operates on a system-based curriculum, right? And what that means is that I know some people, you guys have heard about system-based, organ-based. What does that actually mean? So it means that you learn based on different systems of the body, right? So there's some schools, so the schools that do not operate on the system-based format, you just learn based on disciplines, for example. So you learn your pathology, you have like a pathology course, you have like a pharmacology course, you have anatomy, you have physiology, you have microbiology, so you have these different disciplines. In a system-based curriculum, you learn medicine based on systems. So for example, you can have a course on cardiology, for example, and under cardiology it's going to be divided into the physiology, pharmacology and pathology. So just to give you guys an example, a student who operates on the system-based curriculum will say something like I have a cardiology course tomorrow, or by 8 a.m. I have respiratory, or by 5 p.m. I have to study for renal, for example. But a student who does not operate on the system-based curriculum, they just have pharmacology, so they can say something like, I'm studying for pharmacology 1 or pharmacology 2 or pathology 1 and path 2, right? So that's just the difference between a system-based curriculum and a discipline-based curriculum. Generally, I personally think a system-based is better because it just gives you a more systematic approach to things rather than having them based on disciplines. But again, that's just my own personal opinion. Some other people find the discipline-based curriculum better, but to each their own. Alright, so now we're going to be talking about the class sizes. So I think the class size actually varies a lot based on what semester you're coming in. So we have the January, May, and September classes. And depending on what class you're coming into, that could really affect the class size. So generally, obviously, the September class tends to have more students in the class. So I think an average September class would be around 50 to 60 people, maybe even more. And for January and May, you could see around maybe 30, 40, 45, right? So that's just like a baseline average of what the class sizes are. So I think the list could be somewhere around 30, 35, depending regardless of what semester you're going to, and it could go up all the way to, about 70, 75, right? So that's just a quick idea of what the class sizes look like. Alright, so the next question here is housing on the island and what that is like. So I know thankfully I got the chance to be on the island when Corona hasn't happened yet. So obviously now some students will opt to take the class online or go back to the island. So for those of you that decide to go back to the island at some point, I think you're going to benefit from this. So generally you have different ranges of housing, right? So you have the houses that you could save for about $450 per month, up into something you could pay about $1,000 or $1,500 per month, $1,900 per month. So it really varies. And obviously those ones where you have to pay more, those are the more modern ones. You have like a TV, you have cable, and you can watch TV on the internet and everything. But the ones for $450, you have to maybe buy your own internet or something, right? So it varies. So based on your budget, you're always going to find something, right? So there's like a wide variety of different housing options, and it's pretty much comfortable, right? You have like your bed, you have air conditioning. All the rooms come with air conditioning systems. Then you also have, depending on the housing, again, price range, right? You could have just like a hot plate or like a full-on stove, right? And full-on kitchen, right? And also there's like bachelor studios. There's like 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. If you want a roommate, you can share with a roommate. So there are different options. The options are limitless. And so in terms of getting the housing, you can go through the school's housing department. So we have a housing department in the school that helps students find this housing, and you can also go directly to the landlord. So usually students, they contact upperclassmen and ask them for information about their landlords and what landlord is good and all of that, because the school only has so much housing options in their repertoire, right? So there are some options that are very good, but the school does not have them in their repertoire, right? So basically, to have like a full-on more options, you could go through the school and they're going to present you with the options. And if you have anybody who you know in the school, you can ask them for other options as well too. So in terms of safety, I would say the island is actually considered pretty safe. During my time there, I've not heard of any bad things really happening, but obviously like any other country or city, there's obviously going to be once in a while you're going to hear about robbery and stuff like that. So that could happen once in a while, but again, I don't think there's any reason for anyone to feel like they don't want to come to the island, because again, I mean, in the States, in Canada, obviously people get shot, people get killed, people get robbed. So it's honestly just like every other place, right, in terms of safety. But generally, I would say it's pretty safe. These occurrences are very rare, but I'm just saying that just so you're aware that there's a possibility of them happening, but it's very rare. Alright, so feeding on the island and on the campus. So the school has a cafeteria, right, and they have a lot of options on there, right? And the cafeteria is open for lunch, breakfast, and dinner every day of the week, right? So obviously now with the pandemic and everything, there's very few students on the island. So the last time I checked, I think the cafeteria is only open up until a certain time. They have a lot of options. They have pancakes, toasts, eggs, lunch, island food, rice, pretty much a whole lot of selection that I think everyone will appreciate, right? So that's always an option there as well too. And the food actually tastes pretty nice, right? So they have coffee, they have tea, Red Bull, everything is actually pretty stocked up. So yeah, in terms of feeding on the campus, that's not an issue at all. And you can also order whatever you want that's not on the menu for the day, and you could make that for you as well too. So in terms of on the island itself, obviously there are different restaurants as well. You have your local restaurants, you have your like American restaurants where you could get like American foods, and you also have grocery stores as well too where you could get like groceries and everything. So I would say it's pretty there's a good selection of stuff. So I'm not sure, unless you have anything that you are very specific about that you really want for yourself, then you can bring that coming with you down to the island. But generally they have everything to really make someone comfortable, so I have no complaints personally on that, right? So how well does the school prepare students to take the USMLE exam? All right, so I've had a video on this before, and so I personally think there's only so much a school can do, right? Because a school, they're going to give you all the information, they could do a lot for the students, right? But at the end of the day, I think it still depends on the students to take that information and also do some work themselves, right? So you have to personally develop your test-taking skills, right? You have to personally go out there and look for these resources to help you look at the high-yield information, right? Because in medical school, they're going to give you a whole lot of information that's not really high-yield, right? They're going to teach you everything to the like nitty-gritty of things, and a lot of the time you don't really need that much information, right? So the school is going to do everything they can do possibly on their part to make sure the students have this information. But at the same time, I think actually 80% of success in USMLE actually depends on the students' drive and the work the students do by themselves, right? So do you have your UWorld, for example? Are you using extra resources, first aid? So the school is not going to necessarily tell you to get UWorld or first aid, right? Because they are teaching you, stuff based on their curriculum, right? So it's up to the students to also do that extra research to find out what resources they could use, like your first aid, your UWorld, if you want to use Sketchy or Boys and Beyond, So those are things that the school will not necessarily tell you, but you also have to do that research yourself to figure that out. So generally, I would say the school does what they can possibly to give the student the best possible information as much as they can. But generally, the students also have to do their own personal work. And so in terms of some specifics now, I know MUA, we have a Kaplan subscription. We get that in our third semester, I think. I think our fourth semester. So in our fourth semester, we get an email from Kaplan because our tuition fee comes with a Kaplan subscription in our fourth semester. So we get that, and that includes the Kaplan QBank and also the Kaplan study resource as well too. So there's that. So we also get the Osmosis subscription included in our tuition as well too. I think the school does all these things to really make sure that we put in the best position for success. Like I said, at the end of the day, it's up to you to take these things and use them to make yourself really do better. And also my school also offers the MBME exams after every course, right? So I'm going to talk more on that when we get to the exam session. But yeah, these are some of the few things the school does to prepare the students for the USMLE exam, step 1. All right, so now we're going to be talking about how students are evaluated and what are the exams like. All right, so we have about 5 block exams. It depends. So sometimes some courses they have 5 block exams, sometimes we have 4. So what a block exam means, pretty much how MUA does it. So after every 2 weeks, you have a block exam. So the first 2-3 weeks, so 2 or 3 weeks, depending on what semester you're in. But generally, after every 2 to 3 weeks, you have a block exam. After the next 3 weeks, you have a block exam. After the next 3 weeks again, you have a block exam. Right, so you go through that cycle, I think, about 5 times or 4 times, again, depending on the semester and the course. So let's just say, for example, 5 blocks. So after every 3-week period, you have an exam and you do that 5 times. So when you do that, you have done 5 block exams and you have a final exam, right? So in that final exam, you have a final exam that's set by the professors of the school, and you have an NBME exam, like you call it a shelf exam. So let's say, for example, anatomy, for example, right? After the first 3 weeks of anatomy in Med 1, you take a block exam. After the next 3 weeks, you take another block exam. So once you have done 5 block examinations, so you have now come like to the end of the semester, and you have a cumulative exam. So mind you, the block exams are not cumulative. So your third block exam, you're not going to get tested on something that you learned in block 1, right? You're only going to get tested on something you learned in block 3. But final exam that's set by the professors, you're going to get tested cumulatively. So you're going to get tested based on what you learned in block 1 up until block 5. Then after that final block exam that is set by the school professors, we also have an NBME exam. So this NBME is an external exam that we get from the NBME. So that also contributes to the grading and our marks for that semester. So generally the passing grade is 70% like most other schools, right? So once you have taken all your block exams and your final exam, you need to get at least a 70% to pass that course. If you get below a 70%, unfortunately you have failed. Now we're going to segue into what happens if a student fails a course, right? So, and I think I added this question into the question series just because I think it's actually very important for students to know how they are evaluated and what happens if they fail a course, because there's a lot of things that go on. If you fail a course, you have to start thinking about your finances and stuff like that. So that's why I added this particular question into this series, because I think that will be beneficial for some students to hear. So like I said before, the passing grade is the 70%, right? That's cumulatively. So at the end of the semester, at the end of the particular course, you need to get at least a 70% to pass the course. So let's say, for example, you fail your first block or your second block, you get below 70%. But if you still pass your third block, your fourth block, your fifth block, and at the end of the day, when you have accumulated everything, you get above a 70, then you have passed. So it doesn't matter if you have failed your block 1 or your block 2. What really matters is what you get at the end of the semester, right? So if for any reason, unfortunately, you get below a 70, there's no remedial exam, right? I know the last 2 interviews I did, we were told that those schools offered remedial exams. So if, for example, you failed the exam at the end of that semester, they're going to give you another exam, in a couple of weeks' time to probably do better. But unfortunately at MUA, we do not have any remedial exams, so you have one shot at this per semester. So if, for example, at the end of the semester, you get below a 70% in anatomy, you have to retake anatomy again the next semester. So that puts you behind one semester, right? And once that happens, you get put on probation. So that's pretty much how it works at MUA. So there are no remedial exams. Unfortunately, you have to retake the course again in the next semester. So that's how that works. Yeah, so and in terms of tuition for retaking a particular course, you just pay for that particular course you're taking. So in Med 1, for example, you have anatomy and histology, right? If you fail just anatomy, when you come out the next semester, you have to retake anatomy. You are paying for just anatomy. You don't have to pay for histology anymore, right? So you're only paying for the course that you are retaking. If for any reason you get below a 70 in anatomy and histology, then you obviously have to come back and retake both courses, right? And if you fail that again, the second time you're taking it, I think you might be put on another probation, or honestly, I'm not sure how it works, right? Because I've not really, thankfully, never been in that situation. But generally, I think there's a promotions committee, right? So you have to go sit in front of them and you have to explain yourself. You have to speak about what happened or something. And based on, I guess, how that interview goes, they can decide if they want to keep you or let you go. Again, I'm not 100% sure about this, but that's generally how it works. So I think it helps to really be a good student in class as well, too. Because if, for example, in class the profs know you and you're always answering questions and being involved and you always participate, and unfortunately if for any reason you don't do well at the end of the semester, they already know you, right? So it's going to be easier to convince them, and these professors are part of the promotions committee as well. So it's going to be easier to convince them to just get you through. So pretty much, yeah, that's what really happens if a student fails an exam. Right, so the next question here is an exit exam. So yes, we have an exit exam like most schools have, and that's called the comp exam. So that exam is taken at the end of your 5th semester. So once you have done your first semester, second semester, your third semester, the 5th semester, you take your comp exam. And some people call it the CBSE, some people call it NBME comp shelf, but it's the same thing. And my school requires you to pass this exam before they clear you to take your step 1 exam. So yes, we have that at the end of the 5th semester, and you have to pass that to move on. Alright, so the next question here is what I like and what I do not like about my school. So generally I like that my school actually tries their best to make sure each student succeeds, right? So like I told you guys earlier, we have like osmosis subscription, we have Kaplan subscription, and the professors are very good as well too. They'll have an open door policy. You could ask them any questions you want. If you need more clarification, you could ask them. So I really like that the school, to the best of their ability, they do what they can to give all the students whatever they need to be really successful. So I really like that about the school. One thing I do not like is the constant tuition increase, right? The tuition, like I told you guys, the tuition has increased a lot from when I first started, and I do not necessarily see or notice any change. So it's not like they're increasing the tuition fee and they're adding more things. Things are still the same. So in my mind, I'm wondering why they're increasing the tuition fee, right? So that's one thing I do not really like about the school, the fact that they increase the tuition fee, almost every semester. So if there were like a significant change, honestly, I'm not sure what happens on the back end, and I'm not sure what they do on the back end that might warrant an increase. But on the student level, I do not see anything. So I'm not really sure why the fees keep increasing. So that's just one thing I do not really like. And another thing I don't really like is just I would say, social aspect of things, right? I know compared to some other schools, they have more of a social life in the school. Like they have more clubs that the school gets involved in. We have clubs in my school as well too, but the school doesn't really have much input. And I think a lot more can be done in terms of our social life. Like even our white coat ceremony as well, I think that could be way better. We just go in there in class and we just like last for about 30 minutes to, maybe even 45 minutes and it's done. So I just think a lot more can be done to make the students feel that they're more in a social environment rather than just in a full academic environment. So in terms of academics, school does really well, right? But I also think we need a well-rounded sort of system that incorporates the academics and also incorporates some sort of social aspect, right? Because if you come to the school, it's all about, study, academics and all of that. But you don't really see the administration really putting much effort into like the clubs on campus, like games, sporting events, right? Stuff like that. So, that's just one thing I would love to be incorporated in our, lifestyle in the school. So hopefully that happens at some point in time. All right, so the final question of this series is, if there was one thing I could change about my school, what would that be? So pretty much like I just said, if I would really love more social life in our school, and again, obviously the students still have a role to play in that as well, but generally I would love to see more input from the administration in terms of just making things more better for the students socially. It's not totally absent, but I just think it can be a lot better. So yeah, those are all the questions I have today. Hopefully I was able to answer some questions any prospective students could have, because I get questions a lot of the time, right? And I'm sure this video is going to be beneficial to a lot of people. And if you guys have any more questions or there are things I didn't really touch on, feel free to comment below or put that in the comment section or just message me directly. And my Instagram handle is Mo's Medical. So if you go on Instagram and type in Mo's Medical, you're going to find me there. And feel free to message me if you guys have any questions or anything. So yeah, that's it for this video on the So You Want to Go series, the MUA version. And I'm going to see you guys in the next one. Thank you. Bye.